Why, hello there.
This can't be happening, man. This isn't happening.
True story. I have that many sparks. What's up? What's going on? Happy Friday, everyone. All. Let's chill out and do some more Discovery Tour. We're on the books for 4 hours tonight. 4 hours. Friday night, we're going from 6 to 10. We'll do the same tomorrow. What's going on, man? Did you get that XB1X yet? All right, come on, dashboard. Don't be hanging up on me. Man, oh man. I mean, the games run fine. The dashboard blows. It's all stuttery and. Do you have? Hey, you're not gonna find any deals right now. You might not find any until Black Friday, unless it's a bundle of some kind. I mean, it just came out, so. Do you have a 4K TV? All right, Discovery Tour. I don't know what your budget is like, but I just added a TV to this room. Just got delivered today. 49-inch TV, 4K, HDR. Has Roku built in. Oh, that's right. We finished up with Cleopatra the other day. Has Roku built in. $329 from Amazon. And it looks fantastic. Okay, let's see. I just needed something for up here for, something off in the background or whatever, watch a movie or something while I'm working. Okay, let's see. What does the passport look like? So we tried to keep it pretty even, and I think for the most part we did. If you want me to send you the link to the one that I got, I can do that. That's not a problem. It's highly recommended. I've heard good. I had heard good things about this company. It's from somebody called TCL. It's a Chinese company. They're trying to make their mark in the U.S. market. So they've got good stuff at cheap prices in it. Nice. Okay. So we did keep it fairly even, although there aren't that many Roman ones to begin with. Let's see where we are on the map. See if there's something close by. We're in Alexandria. I'm really kind of surprised that they don't have anything for the library. Yeah, same situation as me. I've got a 55-inch Samsung downstairs, and it's just me. Ah, here we go. There it is. The Great Library of Alexandria. Discover the history of the greatest library in antiquity and learn about the great minds of the ancient world. 7 minutes, 11 stops. What's up, guys? How's it going, dude? How's your Friday, man? Welcome, sir. We are here to chill some more. We're doing more Discovery Tour, which I enjoyed this a hell of a lot more than I thought I would.
Welcome to the Great Library of Alexandria. Near the district of royal palaces and within the Moseon was the most famous library of all antiquity. The Library of Alexandria was built to house all of human knowledge. At its pinnacle, the library was believed to contain over 700,000 parchments.
I mean, some of them parchments couldn't have been very big at all, right? 700,000. That's a lot. Nice. Off meaning off for the week, done with work, or just on vacation, or?
Throughout the centuries, fires and wars between Christianity and paganism destroyed the library, leaving nothing behind.
That is a shame.
The loss of the building, and more importantly, its vast collection, is immeasurable. As no descriptions are available, the team's rendition of the Library of Alexandria was inspired by the visuals of the Library of Chalcis at Ephesus.
I mean, I can't even imagine what was lost, you know? I mean, we might actually know. I mean, I think we found out. I mean, a lot of people knew this. We still don't know exactly how the pyramids were built, right? We have guesses, but we don't know for sure, and I bet you there was probably information on how they did that. Some of the parchments in the library.
Whoopie fucking do.
That must be Chippy. Maybe not. Tippy likes to make that one his entrance. Liar. Are your pants on fire, sir? Oh, TMI, TMI, TMI. Really don't need to know that.
While much of the collection was purchased at the government's expense, the library also obtained books through other means. Any books owned by travelers coming through the city were seized to be copied for the library. The copy would then be returned to the owner, and the original entered into the library's collection.
Oh, wow. They stole them. Long Johns. You'll never know. I'm not telling. Oh, nice comb over there, dude. Look at that. Wonder how they cataloged everything.
Alexandria offered unrivaled intellectual and cultural attractions. Eminent scholars from Athens, Rhodes, and other Greek centers traveled to the city to learn and engage with other free thinkers. Both the Moseon and the library were at the center of groundbreaking ideas and creative expression.
We're doing laps tonight.
The great minds of antiquity were usually well versed in many disciplines, which were often associated to specific schools of thought. The Peripatetics, the Stoics, and the Cynics were among the most well-known schools of the time. It is clear that Alexandria lived up to its fundamental role as a city for intellectuals, nurturing many great minds whose impact reverberates through our modern world.
Auditorium. Wow, that's a relatively new painting. 2 years old. Oh, hello, strategically placed shells. Those must be one of the things that they kind of got a little hot water about, but not too bad, was the nudity in some of the statues and stuff. People felt like, you know, you shouldn't do that because that you're covering up the original art. You know, so that you don't offend anybody.
Hypatia of Alexandria was a Greek mathematician, philosopher, astronomer, and inventor. Though born in Greece, she eventually migrated to Alexandria, like many great minds of the time. It is there that she became the head of the Neoplatonist school of Alexandria. From most accounts, she was highly respected by her fellow Alexandrians, both as a teacher and a philosopher. With her death, the age of great ancient scientific discoveries came to an end.
She lost her nose just like the Sphinx did.
Callimachus was born in Cyrene and educated in Athens. After his studies, he moved to Alexandria to work in the Great Library. A poet and a critic, he strongly rejected the epic format of Homeric poems, and instead fervently supported a shorter, more judiciously formulated style of poetry.
Haiku!
His epigrams and elegiac poems were emulated by later poets. His work was extremely popular, second only to Homer's own works.
Possibly. Possibly him. Euclid.
It was in Alexandria that mathematician Euclid, the father of geometry, wrote the Elements, laying out the foundational work of what would become modern algebra and number theory. Euclidean geometry would become one of the most influential systems in the evolution of mathematics.
Good for you, sir. Don't let it go to your head. Don't go buying any lottery tickets. Euclid, founder of geometry. You guys have a national lottery in Finland?
How do you calculate the circumference of the Earth? With a camel, 2 sticks, and shadows cast by the sun. This is what Eratosthenes of Cyrene described in his principal work, Geography, while he was director of the Great Library of Alexandria. He is credited for the invention of the armillary spear around 250 BCE.
Armillary spear? I don't know what that is. I usually don't play hours until it gets over about 200 million. Then I'll get some tickets. But I don't do it every week. Don't.
The earliest known and most complete armillary sphere of antiquity
Oh, okay.
is the Meteoroscopion of Alexandria, with an imposing 9 rings compared to the 3 or 4 of most other astrolabes. Known as the zodiac krikatoi amongst the Greeks, the Meteoroscopion was used to determine the location of celestial bodies around the Earth. Every self-respecting astronomer of antiquity would have sought to use this tool to better understand the celestial movements.
Now I know what those things are called. I never knew that until today. Okay, that's it. See you. Good night, guys. I've learned all I needed to know, so we'll see you tomorrow. We're only allowed to learn one thing per night. We don't want to use it all up.
Pythagoras of
Pythagoras,
Samos was a well-known
Pythagorean
and
theorem.
respected philosopher and mathematician. He is best known for the Pythagorean theorem. However, there is proof that the theorem existed in Babylonia and India long before Pythagoras was born, casting some doubts as to who exactly originated the theorem.
Alright, anything else nearby that's interesting? And just like the other night, if you guys see something that interests you, shout it out. We can do that. The Greek pharaohs, Ptolemaic dynasty. Introduction to Alexandria. Well, what was this one? Oh, planning of the city. Oh, let's see. Let's do another one in here, since there's so many of them. Commercial hub. Learn about the major economical role of Alexandria during ancient times. I did not look to see, because it tells you in the passport, I think it was, how long each was. Estimated time to see how long it would take. It's possible, I guess we could finish it tonight. I'm not sure.
Welcome to Alexandria, a commercial hub. The ports of Alexandria were a major commercial hub, effectively connecting Egypt with the Mediterranean regions and beyond. A tremendous amount of materials and goods flowed through the city on a daily basis. The large port market was called the Emporion. It was there that merchandise was traded by the ship owners, called Nakliros.
Nakliros? That's the same map that we saw Wednesday. Sorry.
Food and other artisan work streamed out of Egypt. Ceramics, glass, golden rings, and minted coinage. The local potters, using traditional Egyptian techniques, competed with those from abroad, and the textile industry flourished. What Egypt did not produce itself was acquired through trade, using local resources such as wheat and papyrus. Most sought after was pine wood from Syria, iron and marble from the Greek islands, gold from Spain, and exotic fruits from Europe. All this commercial activity contributed to the already decadent wealth of the city.
I wonder what they considered an exotic fruit back then.
Hey, dinastia Gusin. Ikonak centra sentina kia letu. Antrobe agate, aguime, udepos dinaste. Kalao de su.
Going for the gusto.
The wood imported to Port Mariotis through Alexandria's seaward ports was used in the nearby shipyards, where most of Egypt's ships were built. Employing tens of thousands of shipbuilders, the shipyards contributed to establishing the Egyptian fleet as one of the mightiest of the era. Any wood not used in shipbuilding was further disseminated through Egypt for various purposes.
Looks all that's missing is the wheel in the back, right? It reminds me of a steamboat on the Mississippi. Carnival Cruise Line. Everybody get out your bikes. We're heading to the bank. Go ahead. Go ahead. Say it. Say it.
The southern port of Lake Mariotis was the biggest in Alexandria.
You guys
Save for a
suck.
branch angling westward, the lake's size in the Ptolemaic era was roughly 40 to 50 kilometers from north to south. Its waters were maintained by a steady runoff from the Nile. In addition to the lake, a man-made canal was
That's
created
it, man.
to assist
Game
in the
over,
transfer
man.
of goods
Game
from the
over.
city to the port using barges, though it is not represented in the game due to its size.
Yeah. Well, the lake itself is fairly big.
Kere.
Damn, that was annoying.
How is the volume on those? Because I'm using a separate. It's another bot essentially to do the buttons. Is the volume okay? All right.
Banking
tried to get
was
them
one
about
of
the
the
same
most
as they were
distinctive
before.
innovations brought by the Greeks to Egypt. The centerpiece of Alexandria's wealth was the royal systematization of taxes on almost everything. Basic items such as salt, oil, beer, wheat, and linen were heavily
Beer.
taxed. As a result, the
beer.
royal treasury of Alexandria was able to ensure the economic stability of most of the administrative areas of Egypt.
Gold octadrachm of Ptolemy IV Philopator. Yeah. That was Homer right there on the coin.
Καλώς έχω. Επίσης, πατάξιν τον Μερικιά. Γιατί ροργή θεόν παράσκε. Κέρε.
Τι τούτο θαύμα.
Some more skins. The hell is that thing? Some kind of chair? Maybe? Footstool? Oh, yeah,
By the late
I
12th
guess it could be
century,
a
the
saddle,
channel
yeah.
feeding the lake from the Nile silted up. Lake Mareotis lost its connection to the Mediterranean, as well as most of its water, as the lake slowly evaporated to a fraction of its former size. In modern times, Lake Mareotis is being kept alive through irrigation. However, only about 17% of its original size remains.
All right, let's look at the passport. Oh, hey, we're not getting the stupid nag this time like we were the other day. Every time we went into the menus, we got that nag. Hey, try out Discovery Tour. I was actually going to tweet them about that, but I guess I'm glad I didn't because it's not necessary. Let's see, who should we go as? Ptolemy. All right, let's see. Let's do a couple of daily lives. Mummies. The importance of mummies. Amulets and rituals. Temples and rituals. Temples and priests. Building ancient Egypt. Different techniques to quarry stone blocks and build their monuments. That sounds like an interesting one to do. Workers in transport. Sounds like a Jeopardy. I'll take agriculture and the seasons for 100, Alex. Ancient Egyptian fashions. Artisans. Pottery. The Egyptian household. And oil. So let's do this one. Towel head.
You can use a mount to cover long distances quickly.
Jack Attack. He's not wearing any pants. Jack Attack, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the Igloo. How you doing tonight? Welcome to Discovery Tour.
Welcome to Building Ancient Egypt.
Oh my gosh! Let me join the heist. One moment, please, gentlemen. Woot. One last time.
Constructed with bricks made of mud,
you can only go 1,000, Tippy.
Were not permanent. Only religious temples.
It says
and
right
funerary
there in
monuments were
chat,
meant to stand
maximum
the
of
ravages
1,000.
time. For these very important structures, Egyptians used limestone, sandstone, and harder materials such as granite, quartzite, and travertine. These heavy stone blocks were so prized that they were often transported from quarries located hundreds of kilometers away.
All right, we've seen some places like this. He's walking like he's got to take a dump.
Limestone was common and easy to extract from quarries on the east bank of the Nile. This particular limestone had marine fossils in it, however, preventing it from being easily decorated and polished. used as the main building material, the structure would then be finished with a finer limestone that was polished smooth and decorated as needed. Limestone was used for the building of the first pyramids and for most of the religious buildings of the Old and Middle Kingdoms.
Two for two. Did your bike get a flat again?
Ancient Egyptians
There, now you
preferred
can
to
never
use
say that
sedimentary
again,
rock
ever.
beds,
I never win
like
anything.
Sandstone and limestone, because they were often easier to extract. The common method used to extract stone was the open pit quarry. Stone cutters would find quality stone, shape, and dig it out on site. Open pit quarries enabled many workers to work simultaneously on many blocks, which allowed for better productivity.
Hammer and chisel. Let's see if he'll go up. Can he go up? Yes, he can. Wow. Okay.
Workers would
Didn't
draw
trigger
a
it
large
first.
grid directly on the stone's surface, taking care to leave a space between the blocks. This allowed them to isolate the different blocks and create a trench that would make the extraction easier. Stoneworkers used iron chisels for hard rock and bronze or copper tools for softer rocks such as limestone. Removing material between each block created a trench line. In some quarries, that trench was wide enough to accommodate a worker, who would then cut the block entirely on site. For harder rocks like granite, workers cut a series of holes and hammered wooden wedges into them. They then soaked the wood until it swelled and caused the rock to split.
Nice. Ingenious. I wonder how much they actually lost because they had to cut those trenches. Of course, if you don't have the technology, you don't really have a whole lot of choice. You don't have like diamond-tipped saw blades like we do now.
The gallery extraction technique was used when the desired rock was buried under layers of rubble. This method was often necessary in order to find the whiter and finer limestone required for a smoother finish. The first step was for the stoneworkers to create an access pit that would allow them to reach the desired wall of stone. Once a wall of quality stone was exposed, workers could then cut out smaller blocks. This pit required a descending platform. Designed like a stairway, it allowed them to free multiple galleries of blocks.
A midget. Okay, Lolly Skills,
To
how you
cut the
doing? Yes,
stone,
I have.
They created a
No
longitudinal
more twitch.
kerf or slit, and then cut the rock at a 90-degree angle. The lower side was determined along the geological layers or by using a horizontal
Thank you for the
cut.
follow, Lolly.
Wooden
Welcome to the
wedges
igloo on the
were
mixer
inserted in the
side.
rock and hammered in.
How's it going?
Shock waves were then generated using hammers, fracturing the blocks at the seam.
Alright. Kerf or slit. Ah, okay. Now that I know. Were you already on Mixer? Or did you just create that account?
To maintain the stability of these mining pits over the course of quarrying, workers would leave support sections of unexcavated rock. In every quarry, dedicated shrines were established to offer protection for the workers. In particular, Serket, the scorpion goddess, was considered a very powerful deity among quarry workers. Every mine and quarry of ancient Egypt included a scorpion charmer who was said to use magical powers to ward off the dangerous insects and keep the workers safe.
Shrines offer protection.
Yeah, I'm pretty good.
Let's go ahead and grab this one since we're right here. Although technically it doesn't really matter. Being right here doesn't mean squat, because you can travel to pretty much any of them instantaneously. They're all fast travel. Man, hanging that TV was a pain in the ass. No, that's okay. That's alright. They are there to be played with, as long as you have the sparks. Workers in transport understand who were the people involved in the creation of ancient Egyptian monuments and understand the techniques used to quarry stone blocks and transport monuments.
Welcome to Workers and Transport. Whether workers were employed for the pyramid construction or at the quarries, the government supplied food and housing. Workers for the pyramids and royal necropolises were housed in more permanent villages, such as the famous Deir el-Medina. Quarry workers had more temporary lodgings. All skill levels were needed and utilized, from basic work hands to prepare the gypsum, to brickmakers and sand carriers, to skilled stonemasons to shape the blocks.
I need to find a rigged sound effect. Rigged!
Skilled architects and engineers were employed year-round, while support labor were often farmers who worked on the quarries or construction during the Nile's flood season. The basic laborers were hardworking and versatile. Many may have been farmers who joined the construction during the off-season. Hieroglyphs found in the work villages listed assigned job titles.
Yeah, we saw two, I think. Yeah, two of the tours on Wednesday were about the hieroglyphs and how they were able to be translated finally by Champollion. You mean, what is this that we're doing? This is called Discovery Tour. This is a free update that came out for Assassin's Creed Origins last week. It's no combat, no enemies. It is purely an educational aspect to the game where you go on these tours, as we're doing, through different parts of the game, different parts of the aspects of civilization back then. Purely educational. And it's actually pretty good.
Archaeological research shows that no food was stored or prepared on site, but instead workers received abundant rations of bread, beer, and meat.
Beer.
These rations were taken care of by an administration outside the village.
Outside the village?
Medical treatment was also available for those who were injured.
Storage basket. Yeah, I don't think this is actually... You would think that somebody would sponsor this, but I don't think it is. I think they just did it. Paid for it out of their own pocket.
While some quarries were close to the Nile, others were located across the desert and required long expeditions. These expeditions were sanctioned by the state. They involved complex logistics and required many participants. Transporting a block by land meant that workers had to overcome the weight and friction of the load. To solve this, they first dug a track in the ground. This path was sometimes reinforced with rails upon which a sled, used to ferry the blocks, would be pulled.
Like they're doing right now. Skills. This is actually the game map. This isn't the separate area for this. This is the area that you actually play in.
Elevation onto the sled. Workers then poured water onto the clay at the front of the sled, creating a slick surface to more easily move the load. It wasn't until the New Kingdom that animals were used to tow the burden.
Animals don't complain. They probably got tired of hearing the humans doing that. God damn you, asshole. I need a day off.
During flood season, the Nile was at its largest and deepest, which allowed the transportation of the heaviest and biggest loads.
How big were they?
Quarries close to the river had troughs dug out to deliver the stones to the shoreline. Harbors and wharfs situated at the river's edge allowed the transfer of materials and supplies. Harbor warehouses accommodated additional stocks of stone so that they were available for the winter sailing season.
It's a great pyramid. We did those on Wednesday.
Yeah.
The Uwadi el-Jarf papyri detail a limestone load intended for the Khufu pyramid that weighed in at 70 to 80 tons, or 30 blocks. One papyrus is a fragment from a foreman's notes taken while working on the Great Pyramid. It details the transportation of limestone blocks from the Tura quarries to the construction site of the pyramid. The other papyri are shipping logs containing archives of the sailors assigned to sail the Red Sea and the Nile.
That almost looks like the same one we saw the other day. Reusing assets. Hoping nobody's paying attention.
Stone cargo generally weighed 15 tons per boat.
Yeah, but this had to be pretty thick.
6 or 7 blocks per trip.
An inch, maybe?
For heavier loads,
bulletproof?
such as obelisks, monolithic pillars, or gigantic statues, larger boats were used. These transports are the ones typically showcased on temple walls.
7 tons per boat. 6 or 7 blocks per trip.
River transportation was the most efficient way to ferry stone blocks between the quarry and the construction site. Blocks were transported by flotillas of several types of boats. The most detailed illustration of transport by river is a relief of Queen Hatshepsut's barge with an accompanying flotilla.
Queen who? Hatshepsut? Gesundheit. Several types of boats. Not necessarily the pyramids, but for pretty much construction in general. Yeah, that particular tour was, yeah. If you go, let me pick another character to, you can do these as any of the characters or NPCs that are in the game. I don't really want to do any of the generic people. I don't remember Hasina. You can do William Miles. Those of you that played some of the older games, this is Desmond's dad, as it says right there, father of Desmond. But yeah, you've got, there are different areas of interest, I guess, for each tour. Egypt in general, pyramids and specifically, Alexandria, the city, daily Egyptian life, and specifically for the Romans as well. And you can see how many there are for each one. They generally last anywhere between 3 and 15 to 20 minutes, depending on how long they are and how many stops you have to make. You can do the pharaohs. Let's see, I guess that one would be maybe over here. Or was it under daily life? Mummies. Temples and priests, agriculture and seasons, cultivation, fashion, artisans, oil. It's got to be over here. Fayum, natron. Natron is the stuff they use mummification. Flora, fauna. The Acropolis, monuments, upper chambers, funerary complexes. We did some of those. Giza. Well, the Greek pharaohs. Let me see, make sure there aren't any others that have to do with the pharaohs. All right, we'll do that one. We'll do that one, and I think there were 2 for mummies, and we'll do the 2 mummy ones. Constantly on the lookout for Rachel Wise. Hopefully we find her this time. Benny was their friend, right? Wasn't he? He was like he was kind of like the Sala of the Mummy series. Learn about the founding of the Ptolemaic dynasty.
Welcome to the Greek Pharaohs.
Oh, we're gonna go down in the basement. Uh-oh. Scary. Survival horror! Watch out! Oh, man, that's it. Alright.
Pharaohs were considered divine incarnations of the gods. As an avatar of the gods living on Earth, the pharaoh's role was to preserve fundamental values and universal harmony by removing chaos, Izfet, and ensure that justice, Mot, prevailed.
Mot. Was it
The pharaoh,
Mot or
by
Ma'at?
divine ancestry and through multiple offerings, was the bond that unites the world of men to the world of the gods and allows the maintenance of the cosmic order.
Ptolemy the Eighth making an offering of Mot to Amun. Justice.
The Ptolemaic dynasty reigned over Egypt from 305 BCE to 30 BCE. The dynasty was called the Ptolemies of the Lagids, in recognition of the founder of the dynasty, Ptolemy Lagos, a Greek general and close friend of Alexander the Great. While Macedonian, Ptolemy Lagos understood that to be accepted by the Egyptian people, he would have to adopt their traditions. Upon assuming the title of pharaoh, he changed his name to Ptolemy I Soter, meaning savior.
Dynastic portraits in the corridor of Pan. Losing your nose seems to be quite a common thing.
Born in
Alexander the Great.
356 BCE, Alexander the Great went through a hasty education in the affairs of the kingdom before integrating into the Macedonian army, where he quickly rose through the ranks. After his father's assassination in 336 BCE, which some believed was orchestrated by Alexander himself, he became king of Macedonia. Ruler of a unified kingdom and leader of a large army, Alexander set his sights on conquest. Eager to reclaim the Greek cities of Asia Minor, he took on the Persian forces, earning victory after victory.
Where's the fig leaf for his wang? They cover up the women's boobs. Got all the hieroglyphs on the outside of that. Amun en Afri.
Ever victorious, Alexander the Great marched on, laying siege to city after city until he reached Egypt, where the Persians were defeated yet again. Viewed as a liberator by the Egyptian people, Alexander decided to become pharaoh in due form. He traveled to Thebes to make a sacrifice to Apis, then went to the oasis of Siwa, where he was proclaimed son of Amen.
Siwa. That's where
Officially
origins
pharaoh
began.
of Egypt, Alexander spent much of the winter there and founded the city of Alexandria. Perhaps not coincidentally, being pharaoh allowed Alexander to spread propaganda to prepare further conquests. He resumed his military campaigns in 331 BCE. On his deathbed in 323 BCE, Alexander the Great gifted the satrapy of Egypt to Ptolemy Lagos. Perfectly aware of the value of Egypt, Ptolemy ensured not only the stability of the country's borders, but also its economic and military development. At the same time, he worked with the Egyptian elite to maintain the internal order of the country. By 305 BCE, Ptolemy, well respected both in Egypt and in the Mediterranean, was at the head of the largest fleet of the Hellenistic world. Ptolemy officially took the title of Pharaoh of Egypt in January 304 BCE, on the anniversary of Alexander the Great's death.
Polished stone.
Alexander died in Babylon in 323 BCE. His remains were placed first in a solid gold sarcophagus, and then within another. The casket was carried in an ornate custom wagon, gilded and set with precious stones, and pulled by 64 mules crowned with gold.
64 mules?
The funeral procession was diverted to a grandiose temple in Alexandria, built in the conqueror's honor under the orders of Ptolemy I.
Does that mean he went to the buffet line a few too many times? You've been hitting it a little heavy there, sir. I guess not.
Julius Caesar visited Alexander's tomb at the capture of Alexandria, and the Roman Emperor Augustus reportedly placed flowers there. However, though many powerful leaders claim to have visited it, the tomb's location has gone missing from history.
Looks like, is that a cat?
Some accounts do state that the golden coffin was replaced by a glass sarcophagus, probably by Ptolemy X. It is also implied that Cleopatra may have plundered the tomb in a time of financial crisis.
Let's go back to Aya. Aya's pretty kick-ass. Alright, so we were going to do mummies. Which one is 20 minutes? They were saying one of them was like 20 minutes. Where is that one at? 8, 3, 3. Yeah, it's 2 minutes. It's almost not like even a tour. You don't sneeze. Wow. The Siege of Alexandria, 22 stations, 20 minutes. That is a big one. There's one for 13. $10. All right. Got a 20, a 13, and a 10. This one's got 18 stations and it's only 9 minutes, so they must be pretty close together. A very dense tour. Process of mummification.
Welcome Mummies of Ancient Egypt. The mummification process used by ancient Egyptians was highly ceremonial in nature. The different types of mummification took into account the social level and richness of the deceased and even included animals. The most expensive was that reserved for the pharaoh and the royal family, as well as some of the wealthiest members of the court.
Book of the Dead. We heard about that the other night. This looks like the same picture, actually.
The first step was cleaning. Once bodies arrived at the mummification site, they were placed on inclined tables while the bodily fluids drained away. They were then cleansed by priests until they were deemed ready for the purification process.
Situla, to carry purification water dedicated to Osiris, Isis, Horus, and Amun.
The purification of the body began with a libation from sacred water. The priest then fumigated the body with terebinth resin. After the ritual cleansing, priests used oils, spices, and all kinds of essences to further purify the body of the deceased. Finally, all body hair was meticulously removed.
Wow. Did not know that. Libation vase.
Once the body was properly purified, embalmers removed the organs, following very specific procedures. First, the brain was extracted by inserting a spoon through the nostril to break the ethmoid bone. Then, using a spatula, the pieces of the brain were removed as thoroughly as possible.
Through the nose?
What matter remained was extracted after a process of liquefaction, achieved through the use of a caustic liquid. The cranial
Battery
box,
acid.
once emptied, was rinsed and disinfected with palm wine, and then stuffed with strips of linen cloth and liquefied resin.
She'd like to have that job.
After taking care of the brain, embalmers made an incision on the left flank and carefully set aside the viscera. The inside of the body was also rinsed with palm wine. Then the embalmers filled the belly with pure myrrh, cinnamon, and other perfumes, and sewed it shut. The removed viscera were washed in palm wine and packed in crushed herbs before being placed in canopic
Herbs?
jars.
Menmasuts. There's dog. Anubis figure.
Canopic jars were placed close to the sarcophagus or kept in a chest nearby. At first, the viscera were wrapped in tissue and placed in the vases. As the ritual requirements became more elaborate, ointments, spices, and even water and natron were added to the process.
Canopy box. Nose job gone bad.
Towards the middle of the New Kingdom, canopic jars assumed the appearance of the 4 sons of Horus. They were known as the protectors of the viscera. These protectors had their own guardians, each a goddess of the dead. Imseti, the human-headed god, protected the liver and was protected by the goddess Iset. Hapi, the baboon-headed god, protected the lungs and was protected by the goddess Nephthys. Dumut-Ef, the jackal-headed god, protected the stomach and was protected by the goddess Neith. And
that's
finally,
with the bow that I have.
the falcon-headed god, protected the intestines and was protected by the goddess Selket. Natron is a naturally occurring mineral found in evaporite. These sedimentary rocks are made up of mineral salts and were generally mined from lake beds in Egypt.
The inner crater of Mount Emi. Emikusi.
Embalmers used natron as a desiccant to dry the flesh and stop the corpse's putrefaction process. Once the body was cleansed and eviscerated, the deceased was covered in natron for about 40 days. Once desiccated, the body was prepared to be wrapped in strips of linen.
Mummification. We're doing mummification right now. Yep. That's the FTL that they're known for. There's almost no delay. Try getting that on Twitch on a good day.
Once the body was fully desiccated by the natron treatment, embalmers oiled, painted, and sometimes even added hair extensions or a wig. They often used a henna-based antiseptic preparation to give the body a more colorful and lively appearance while preparing it to resist molds and fungi.
Yeah, I am using an FTL server, my stream key, so you do have that choice when you set up OBS, which type of server you want to use. A wig of human hair and beeswax. It's a wig. Yeah, that's pretty cool, isn't it? It is absolutely cool. One of the big downsides is the lack of emotes.
Next came the phase which gave mummies their most well-known appearance, the wrapping. Originally, each part of the body was wrapped separately. Men had their arms crossed on their chests, while women had the right arm folded over their breasts and the left arm stretched along the body. However, techniques evolved over time. Eventually, the body as a whole was wrapped with limbs alongside the body, and increasingly sophisticated and different techniques of weaving flax bands were developed.
Plus it also has the interactive stuff as well, skills that you see underneath the video. All those buttons down there, that's up to the streamer whether or not they want to set them up. And there's more options available than just those buttons.
Shiny stuff.
But you earn, on Mixer, you earn what are called sparks, which is the little lightning bolt up in the upper right hand corner of the screen next to your name if you're on a web browser. And you can spend those sparks on things that the streamer has made available on their channel, like what you see below. Mummy of a bad.
Whoopie fucking do.
In addition to the jewelry and amulets arranged on the skin of the deceased, amulets were also carefully inserted into the weaving of the linen strips. Each amulet was linked to a myth, or to an ideological belief related to rebirth.
Who's next?
Oh crap, I didn't look at the picture on that one. Oh well.
Masks were an important part of a mummy's finery. Early wooden
Watch it,
funeral
they're
coverings
everywhere!
were very expensive, however.
Yes, they are.
And soon replaced by masks created through a technique known as cartonnage. Masks fashioned with this method were created by laying several layers of linen or papyrus pulp on a base made of mud or straw. Cartonnage was used for more than funerary masks. Ornaments and the animal coffins of the late period were also made in such a fashion. Cartonnage evolved to cover the entire body of the mummy during the 22nd dynasty. The mummies were placed on a board inside a rigid envelope of cartonnage, which was laced at the back with a string. Extremely cost-effective and visually pleasing, this technique was very popular through all layers of the society.
Let me see if I can turn the FTL back on my end. Sometimes it slows down, even for me. Oh, wait a minute. This way. Yeah, I'll have to look and see about maybe making the buttons a little bit narrower so I can fit a few more on there, because in case it wasn't completely obvious, each row corresponds to a person or a theme or a group.
Cartonnage envelopes
I definitely
were
have
usually
more
covered with
Hudson ones than
inscriptions
will
and
fit.
polychrome decorations specifying the names and titles of the deceased, scenes depicting daily life, or decorations specific to the funerary
That's it,
world.
man. Game over, man.
This
Game
was a true
over.
gift for Egyptologists eager to study the funerary rites of the ancient Egyptians.
Is Alien King, are you on your console again tonight? Or is anybody watching that's not on a browser on their computer? And if you are, can you see the buttons underneath the screen? Underneath the video, straight down there? Okay. Your dog meat, pal. The designer.
Once the mummy was properly
allows
wrapped
you to
and
set
adorned,
it up for different
the embalmers proceeded
platforms.
with the ceremony of the opening of the mouth. A vital step
Hey,
of the
Jess, how you
funerary
doing? Welcome.
process. This ceremony was meant to bring back to life the deceased themselves, or an
Excuse me.
object representing the deceased.
I love Oreo Blizzards, by the way. Those are yummy. I'm not really on here anymore. I mean, the schedule is the same as it was when I was doing both Twitch. What's this guy doing? Is he surfing in that bowl or something? What are you doing, buddy? Yeah, moonwalking in a
There
bowl.
were no less than 75 different stages for the opening
Looks
of the
dead
mouth.
enough to me.
It required the application of the same oils, ointments, spices, and perfumes used during the mummification process. Makeup was sometimes part of the process as well.
Makeup. Opening of the mouth ritual.
Ooh,
75.
that's gotta hurt.
Now, the regular sound effects are turned off in favor of using the interactive stuff, and there's no room. I had to leave some off.
The last stage of this long ritual was the act of touching the mouth with the adze to symbolically allow the breath of life to infuse an inert body. Its
We've seen this
performance
picture
was
before,
reserved
too.
for a very specific set of people. Priests who wore the mask of the god Anubis, a close relative of the family, or by the heir to the throne.
I do need to do that, Alien King. Or like I said before, maybe make the buttons a little bit narrower so I can fit more of them on there. Because you only have a limited amount of space. The importance of mummies for ancient Egyptians. 9 stops for 6 minutes. You can either access the tours through the menu like you just saw me do, or you can go to them on the map as well. It's the same map that we're playing, that you play the game on. Hey, kitty, what's up? Oh, she petted him. Lord Scion, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the igloo. How you doing tonight? How is your Friday? Wow. Jonesy. Here, Jonesy.
Welcome to The Importance of Mummies.
Wow. Yep, there are kitties all over the place.
You're gonna die for that.
No, don't kill the kitty.
The first hieroglyph for embalmer appeared in pyramid texts of the Old Kingdom. It is likely that embalming was a trade that progressed alongside the evolution of ancient Egyptian
Thanks for coming out,
funeral
Skills. I
practices.
appreciate you coming out.
While we still know nothing of how embalming came to be a profession, we do know that embalmers had a hierarchy, and that
Thank you.
each
You too.
embalmer specialized in a specific phase of the mummification process.
Thank you, Jess. Thank you for the host. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Looks like some wax, or some beeswax, maybe. Oh, man, that's gotta hurt.
The mummification techniques were jealously guarded by embalmers from generation to generation. Despite their efforts, Herodotus and Diodorus discovered their methods in late antiquity, but historians were skeptical about the validity of the texts. It remained a mystery until 2 teams of modern medical legal scientists confirmed the process in 1994 and again in 2011.
Medical legal scientist? What the hell does that mean? I don't know. They're both wearing them. It's like, ew. I don't know if I could have a leopard's head hanging on the front of my stomach. It's a little too freaky.
The Uabet, meaning the pure place, was where the embalmers mummified the bodies of the deceased. Until the end of the Middle Kingdom, it was located in tents at the edges of the city due to the smell of decomposition. In the New Kingdom, however, the Uabet was located within the city limits, though still in open-air spaces.
Medic!
In the same way that the practices and techniques of mummification evolved, so possibly did consideration towards embalmers within ancient Egyptian society.
Embalming equipment. Late period.
The pharaoh had access to the most elaborate of mummification rituals. The richer citizens of Egypt also enjoyed complex embalming options, though none of them allowed for the removal of the brain or viscera. After purifying the body, embalmers injected a liquid through the rectum, sealed it, and allowed the mixture to settle. They then plunged the body into natron for up to 40 days. Once the body was dried, the seal was removed, and the entrails flowed out with the injected liquid, leaving the skin and bones of the deceased to be wrapped in linen and returned to the family for burial.
You count me out.
Exactly. Oh my God.
Wasted.
Okay, so based on the descriptions of the mummies that we had earlier, is this a man or a woman? And why? Okay, and why? Do you remember what they said? Yep. Yep, for men, they crossed the men's arms in front of the chest. And for women, the right arm was crossed over their boobs, and the left arm was out to the side of the body. Yep. I guess that's natron.
The least costly embalming option was for the embalmers to simply inject a product called surmaya and immerse the body in the natron for up to 40 days before handing it over to the family. For all those who could not afford any embalming process, desert burials offered a pauper's alternative to preserve the bodies of the dead.
This is that same picture. This is like the third time we've seen this same picture. I could give away some cubes. All right, for 1,000 cubes, 5,000 cubes. The first person to correctly answer this question.
Egyptian civilization has always appealed to Westerners, even before the Greek and Roman invasions. As early as the Middle Ages, mummies discovered by travelers were often sent back to Europe. Curio cabinets, dating from the 16th and 17th centuries, usually included pharaonic artifacts in their collections.
It's like, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, +1.
The Egyptomania phenomenon was heralded by Napoleon Bonaparte's Egyptian campaign, which lasted from 1798 to 1802. The following years were marked by a resurgence of interest from rich enthusiasts and scholars who exposed Egypt to the general populace. Many research societies focusing on Egyptology were founded during those years.
They were talking about the natron. There's a mission in the game, a side mission in the game where tainted natron. You had to figure out why it was being tainted and who did it and why.
By 1868, mass tourism began in Egypt under the aegis of the Cook Agency. The rich would indulge in leisure trips to Egypt and bring back mummies. Upon their return, they would organize evenings that consisted of unpacking mummies and removing strips of linen and amulets layer by layer.
Oh, yay.
These were considered the shining cultural events of the season.
Wow.
The Egyptian collections of many a museum were founded as a consequence of this mass pillaging.
Friday night. Yeah, whoosh. Hey, we're gonna desiccate some. Yeah, exactly. Things were much different back then.
Thanks to those dubious parties, the fantasy of a mummy coming back to life, seeking revenge on its defilers, was born. The mummy malediction myth has remained steady in popular culture ever since, particularly in written media and cinema.
The movies. International Adventure Library, The Jewel of 7 Stars by Bram Stoker, author of Dracula. Oh man.
Thanks to those dubious parties, the fantasy of a mummy coming back to life,
I forgot that I was in
on its defilers,
with an interacting difference. I was going to see what she was going to do with
the mummy malediction myth has remained steady in popular culture ever since,
with
particularly in written media.
Feed her or pet her or rub her neck.
I'll wait. It's not like ancient Egypt is going anywhere.
Shh. You hush. Is that it for the mummies? Alright, anything else anybody's particularly cares to see? The city of Memphis, Siwa. Like I said, that's where the game begins. Natron. Memphis. Let's do Natron, since we were just kind of talking about that with mummification. Yeah, see, I mean, you can't do anything. You can crouch, and you can run, and you can kind of zoom in during this. That's it. That's all you, and you can run. That's about all you can do. Learn about the uses of natron and how it was mined and farmed in ancient Egypt. 4 stations, 2 minutes.
Welcome to Natron. Natron is a colorless salt that was used by ancient Egyptians for food preservation, cleansing products, and glass making. It was also used in the mummification process.
Bag of natron from Tutankhamun's embalming cache. Yeah. His personal stash.
During the ceremonial embalmment ritual, the priests packed the body in natron in order to remove all of the moisture.
The desiccant.
Once the body was thoroughly desiccated, they could begin the wrapping.
I know, right? And injecting fluids and plugging their backsides until it becomes liquefied and then letting it drain out. Ooh. Wow. These people. It's like, I want to party with you.
Natron was mined in Wadi Natron. The main mining methods involved either cutting slices out of the lake bed when it was dry, or raking through mineral-saturated water to gather the mineral salts during the floods.
I wonder what they use it for today. Just simply to drying stuff out, and that's pretty much it, since we don't mummify anymore.
Both techniques are still used today and inspired the team in their recreation of the mines located in the mountains northwest of Memphis.
Bayek. Alright. Anything close by? Oh, the Red Pyramid. Let's do this one. Learn about the Red Pyramid of Dashur. 3 minutes. Just a bunch of bite-sized little pieces of history. To quote Deckard Cain, stay a while and listen.
Welcome to the Red Pyramid of Dashur. The Red Pyramid was built 2 kilometers to the north of the Bent Pyramid. It was so named due to the reddish limestone used in its construction. The Red Pyramid reached a height of 105 meters. While the ground level of the Red Pyramid is lower than that of the Bent Pyramid, its height is virtually the same. The task of making the pyramid a geometrical, true, flat-face pyramid brought about yet another new design concept: the use of casing blocks.
She must be chafing or something. A little too close to the nature on there, Aya. A little dried out.
The descending corridor of the pyramid, which opens to the north, arrives at ground level, where 2 almost identical spectacular chambers with high ceilings are aligned north to south and connected by a short horizontal passage. In the south wall of the second chamber, accessed by a staircase, another corridor leads to the final chamber, which is built within the masonry of the pyramid itself and aligned east to west.
I don't think I went in this one during the game. Maybe we'll go in there if it'll let us when we're finished the tour.
The annexes of the Red Pyramid consist of a small funerary temple located to the east. A causeway presumably ran due east from the temple, but it has yet to be excavated. The Red Pyramid was structurally sound, and once finished, marked a remarkable design milestone. Finally successful in his attempts to build himself a suitable funerary monument, Sneferu knew his future beyond death was assured.
See if we can go inside. Even if there is anything inside worth anything, we won't be able to pick it up.
Why, hello there.
Hello. Climb up that way, or slide under. No, that's not where I wanted to go. Shit.
It's not the heat that gets you. Well, it might, if the miles and miles of endless barren desert without water don't first.
Oh man. Ah, here we go. I was hoping there would be some more stuff under here. Looks like a puzzle room. Might not be able to solve. Don't know what that's tied to. We've got the counterweights.
If you have some time, check out Alexandria. It's one of the greatest cities in antiquity.
But we can't pick them up. Normally those things right there are what you use as counterweights for lifts. That's some carbon crystal or whatever it's called. Buy it, can pick up for upgrades and things. Maybe she can jump across this way. Yeah. Oh. Nope. Alright, maybe we can't. Maybe we can't progress while we're in here during the tour. Come on, Aya, let's go. You were just able to climb up that high just a minute ago. Alright. Ha! I'll fix you. The bent pyramid, they just referenced that one. At the red one. Oh, right, this one. Okay, yeah.
Welcome to the Bent Pyramid of Dashur. After the construction of the Meidum Pyramid failed, Sneferu transferred his residence and the official necropolis to Dashur. There he began construction on his second attempt at a funerary monument. The resulting structure, known as the Bent Pyramid, is the only one of its shape in Egypt.
Wow, the only one.
Though the pyramid also proved unstable and was abandoned, It marked a technical and architectural breakthrough. Heralding an important design transition, the bent pyramid displays a shift from the step pyramid to a functional smooth-sided pyramid.
2012. Wow, it has not aged well. Ubisoft, so they took this picture. Yeah. I'm out.
The
I'm
bent
done.
pyramid was unique in having two separate entrances, one on the northern face and another on the western face. The chamber of this pyramid was too small for a human burial. It was probably meant for the burial of a statue designated to house the Ka, the vital spirit of the deceased king.
You can barely see that. Southern and small stone pyramids of Dashur, view plans, sections, and hieroglyphics. Mid-1800s.
With the bent pyramid, architects successfully experimented with a completely new idea: to build the pyramid with a core of huge stones settled on a progressive horizontal design. This way, each construction phase could be completed in a single stage, allowing the architect complete control over every design element. Unfortunately, these precautions did not prevent sagging or cracks in the interior rooms of the pyramid. Sneferu abandoned the monument and began the construction of yet another pyramid.
There's Sanu flying around, keeping us company. All right, let's see. What do we want to do now? Amulets, temples and rituals, temples and priests, agriculture and seasons seem to be centered around the Nile, which we did on Wednesday. We did one of those. Canopus Gnome, fashion. Artisans, household, pottery, oil. Let's go ahead and do these last two Roman ones. Get those done and out of the way. Roman military equipment in the forts of Cyrenaica. Those are two short ones. Green Mountains, that's on the west side of the map.
Welcome to Roman military equipment. The strength of Rome was directly dependent on its military supremacy and fundamentally militaristic society. Regular citizens, comprised mostly of farmers and herders, joined to protect their land and families. In return for their service, members of this civic army were allowed to vote. Trained to be highly disciplined and obedient to superior officers, citizen soldiers developed a deep sense of loyalty to their city.
Look at the detail on that bowl. I wonder how old it is. It's okay, guys. Don't fight over me. There's plenty of me to go around. Threesome.
The quality of the armor of a Roman foot soldier was intrinsically linked to his social status and wealth. Chainmail was the most commonly used type of armor. Scale armor, made famous in today's media, came into use after Caesar's time. Foot soldiers carried large and oblong shields, while the cavalry used smaller ones of Greek origin. Soldiers were expected to carry their own kit, including the tools required for the construction of forts and tents.
The altar of Domitius Ahenobarbus. Again, Gesundheit.
Roman soldiers used the same types of weapons. The stomach and face were the most targeted parts of the body. As such, a legionary was equipped with two close combat weapons, a dagger and a short sword, known as a gladius. One of the most ingenious Roman weapons was the javelin. Its pyramid-shaped tip pierced the body, while its iron shank was designed to break upon impact, stopping the enemy from throwing it back.
Interesting.
During their conquests, the Romans regularly transformed enemy technologies to add to their own formidable arsenal. After capturing a Carthaginian vessel, the Romans adopted its better features and constructed a superior fleet of ships.
Sure.
Adapting heavy artillery designs from Greek models aided the Romans in building catapults and ballistae. The latter became an iconic symbol of Roman warfare.
The pit crew. Yeah, exactly. You will be assimilated. The best of both worlds, a two-part episode in Next Generation was, for me, it was the best episodes of Next Generation. Learn about the fortifications discovered in Cyrenaica and their purpose. Well, at least until they put them to sleep. I thought that was kind of corny, but the whole fact that they had no countermeasures and couldn't figure out how to hurt them. You know, that was a two-part episode where they didn't figure that out until the very end, right? I mean, they figured out how to change the phasing on their phasers so that they couldn't adapt as quickly as they could when they first ran into them, but...
Cyrenaica was a Libyan region under Roman control, gifted to Rome by one of Cleopatra's ancestors. The remains and foundations of ancient fortifications were discovered in the 19th century in the southwest of Cyrenaica, as well as a Roman garrison dating back to the 1st century CE. Evidence shows that these forts were of Libyan origin, rebuilt and modified by Roman engineers when Cyrenaica was part of the Empire.
The only two Star Trek movies that I remember not liking were the one with the Romans, with the Next Generation crew, or the Romulans, sorry. And I don't remember the name of that one. And the one with the original crew with, was it Cybeck going to the center of the galaxy or whatever. Those two weren't my favorites. 2 and 4 are my favorites. Wrath of Khan by far is number 1 for me.
Stone was the most commonly used material to build forts in Egypt and Cyrenaica. Though no real proof of a fortress similar to the one before you has been uncovered in that region, the team chose to add it as a worthy and awe-inspiring end-of-game challenge for the player.
Yeah, this is the one that I was talking about the other day when we were doing the one on the aqueducts. The aqueduct is up there, and I mentioned that there was a fort nearby. This is the one I was talking about. There's a quest where you have to kind of go back and forth between the two. What do I do? What do I say? Can I talk to this woman? Maybe I should look away. Maybe she'll go away.
The forts of Cyrenaica were intended to prevent invaders from gaining access to the main route that led to the country's 5 most important cities. These forts were built close to coastal plains and deserts for added defense. 3 of these cities were recreated by the team: Balagray, Apollonia, and Cyrene. Had it existed, the fort before you would have protected the road leading to Balagray.
Okay.
Other than reference to an attack around 404 CE and a military reorganization by Emperor Justinian during the 6th century CE, we still know little of the Roman military presence in Cyrenaica.
All right, let's see. It's 8 o'clock, so we're halfway through the stream. So I'm going to take a break. Go to the restroom, blah, 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 the usual stuff. I'll put a couple tunes on for you guys. Let's see. Well, we're making a dent, right? We're getting there. Maybe we'll knock out the 2 long ones when we get back. See, that one is the 20-minute one. There was a 13 over here somewhere. There it is. The Step Pyramid Complex of Djoser. Saqqara Gnome. So we'll do those 2 when we get back. We'll do that. We'll do that so we don't hear anything in the background. So let me take care of those things, and I'll be back in a few. Sit tight.
This can't be happening, man. This isn't happening.
Now what the fuck are we supposed to do? We're some real pretty shit now, man!
All right, we're back. Decided to make some coffee instead of having some more sugary carbonated.
Why,
drink.
hello there.
Hello there. All right. What shall we do now? If nothing specific, how about a category? Any particular category? We've done about a third of the pyramids and about close to half of everything else. So maybe we should do a few more of the pyramids. There are two. Oh, we were going to do the 20-minute one, weren't we? Let's do that first. That's right. Freeze watch? What the hell is that? The hell do you have a freeze watch March. The Siege of Alexandria. Learn about the Siege of Alexandria from Julius Caesar's perspective. 20 minutes, 22 stops.
Welcome to the Siege of Alexandria. Among the collection of writings attributed to Julius Caesar are his descriptions of the Siege of Alexandria, the Gallic Wars, and the commentaries on the Civil War. These archives contain information on different campaigns, the wars of Alexandria, Africa, and Spain.
Looks like
Each
Putin.
of them recounts Caesar's military activity from 58 BCE to 45 BCE. Though Caesar's documents remain a main source of information, it's important to note that the perspective is limited. It is necessary for other historical documents to be taken into consideration to provide a better understanding of events.
Civil War by Julius Caesar, edition of 1574. 1st century BCE.
The Siege of Alexandria closely relays the events of the Civil War that led up to the event and describes how Caesar was besieged in the palace of the Ptolemies. Other ancient authors have left equally valuable and sometimes contradictory information.
Looks like the section on the right-hand side of the bay. Yeah, this part over here.
In the events leading up to the Siege of Alexandria, Cleopatra VII and her brother were fighting over control of Egypt. Young King Ptolemy XIII's regent, Pothinus, had firm control over the young pharaoh, and an outmaneuvered Cleopatra soon went into hiding. This set the stage for Pompey's arrival in Alexandria. Having lost his battle against Caesar in 48 BCE, the Roman general turned to his allies, the Egyptians, for safe harbor. But on the advice of Pothinus, Ptolemy XIII had Pompey assassinated in the hopes of earning Caesar's favor. This would turn out to be a most unfortunate decision.
You have chosen unwisely. Somebody's head. Nice clean cut.
Upon his arrival in Alexandria, Caesar was presented with Pompey's head. The sight of a Roman murdered by Egyptians did not sit well with him. Caesar made his displeasure clear, ordering the return of Cleopatra, and for the siblings to resolve their differences and resume their co-rule of Egypt, as per the will of their father. Neither Pothinus nor Ptolemy XIII wished to accede to this demand. While doing his best to aggravate Caesar, Pothinus secretly plotted against the Roman ruler and sent word for Egyptian general Achilles to bring his 20,000 men to fight on his behalf. While Pothinus plotted against Caesar, Cleopatra made a bold move.
Hey, Meridian actor, how you doing? Welcome. Caesar in Alexandria, 2016 painting, I guess. Ubisoft. Yeah, I saw that. Caesar is not amused. Okay, I guess we're going all the way down to that part that we were looking at the beginning. Oh, I want my big bird, man. Come on. Oh, really? I can't gallop? Really? It'd be faster to jump off the horse and run. Seems kind of silly to have them these 2 points so far away with nothing in between. I mean, I understand you can, you know, take a look around and explore if you want, but people that have already played the game and finished it, I mean, you've already been to all these places. Ooh, big man. Cleopatra and Caesar.
There are various descriptions of the encounter between Caesar and Cleopatra. One report states that she snuck into the palace alone at night. Another account claims she was accompanied by an ally and was brought inside the palace wrapped in a carpet bag. Though exactly what happened at this fateful meeting is up for debate, what is known is that Cleopatra met with Caesar and earned his approval. Pothinus and Ptolemy XIII were most vexed with this turn of events.
It's a big kitty. Out of my way, sir. Do you know who I am? Wow. Seems like it's 20 minutes, but it doesn't need to be.
With Cleopatra finally present, Caesar chose to act as mediator between the siblings in the hopes of a peaceful resolution. It did not take long for things to sour. During a banquet given to celebrate the reconciliation, there was an assassination attempt on Caesar. It was the Roman leader's own barber who thwarted the attack.
Barber saved
Once it
him.
was revealed that the king's regent, Pothinus, had ordered the attack, Caesar had him executed. He then placed the young king under guard.
Συνειδέστε, φίλοι.
She pushed all 4 of them. Can we get these guys too? Bad tourists, bad.
Caught within the palace with roughly 4,000 troops, and with the knowledge that the arrival of enemy forces was imminent, Caesar sent for help from Syria, Rhodes, and Cilicia. He ordered his men to dig a ditch around the palace and build a wall leading to the harbor. This would ensure Caesar's access to the sea. When Egyptian General Achillas arrived in the city with 20,000 men, the battle for Alexandria began.
So I guess this Martin Deschambault, maybe he's an employee of Ubisoft that happens to be a painter. Or maybe they just commissioned him to make those.
With so few men at his disposal, Caesar could not risk a battle just yet. He sent ambassadors to Achillas in the name of Ptolemy to propose a truce. Knowing that the orders did not come from the young king, and angered by the pharaoh's imprisonment, Achillas had the messengers assassinated. With Caesar confined within the palace, Achillas positioned his troops around the city. Skirmishes broke out throughout the streets of Alexandria and went on for several days and nights. Though they were outnumbered, Caesar's men were able to hold the enemy back. This prompted Achillas's next move: capture the Roman fleet stationed in the harbor.
Natasha Tan this time. Another Ubisoft concept art, maybe. That would be my guess, actually, now that I think about it.
Malla here. Titu do sapma.
Although the palace offered protection, losing the port meant the end of help and supplies. Caesar knew he had to protect the fleet. While he and his troops succeeded in regaining control of the port, he knew it would be impossible to sustain. Caesar ordered the burning of the ships. With passage back to the palace closed off, he headed for the lighthouse of Alexandria.
One of the wonders of the world. The lighthouse.
Fighting their way through the Egyptian troops, Caesar and his men eventually reached Pharis Island. There, they took refuge within the lighthouse. With easy access to the open sea, Caesar was able to send messages to his allies requesting reinforcements and more supplies. The island fort also allowed him to control access to the harbor by relying on the chains used by the Egyptians to control ship traffic to and from Alexandria's docks.
Yep, lighthouse.
The exact chronology of events during the war in Alexandria remain imprecise. Conflicting accounts raise questions as to when, and even if, the Great Library of Alexandria was burned down at all.
Well,
One
then where did
account
it go?
states that during the fighting, docks and warehouses were burned, and this was the fire that spread to the library. In another account, when Achilles cut off the harbor, Caesar had to leave the safety of the palace to defend his ships. As the enemies battled across the port, their arsenals set ships ablaze, and this destruction spread to the library. The exact chronology of events during the war in Alexandria remain imprecise. Conflicting accounts raise questions as to when, and even if, the Great... In either case, the Great Library was not completely destroyed. Experts point out that its location was too far from the harbor, and much later texts refer to the Great Library as being intact. Warehouses near the harbor contained manuscript copies awaiting export, and it is more likely that these documents were destroyed than the Great Library itself.
We've seen this picture before, too. So obviously, a good many of the assets have been reused, depending on the tour.
The destruction of the Great Library may have been due to a number of fires over the ages. Its end was probably closer to the 4th century CE, when the Christian Emperor Theodosius I ordered the closure of all pagan temples. While some documents survived after being moved away, it remains unclear just what knowledge may have been lost. Where there are accounts of Achilles being in control of the battle against Caesar, it appears that instead Cleopatra's sister, siding with her brother, had him killed and put her ally Ganymedes in his place. Ganymedes proved a valuable tactician for the Egyptian side. It was his idea to cut Caesar's access to the harbor, thus trapping Caesar at the palace. During the time of Ptolemy I, canals had been dug throughout Alexandria to
Looks like
provide
we're going to
fresh
be going
water.
to the lighthouse eventually.
Ganymedes had his men take control of these canals. After isolating their own water supply, he had his men pour salt water into the canals and cisterns that led to Caesar's camp.
Wow. Salting the water.
Idiodin, and love me nuki gnostis.
Panic erupted in Caesar's men. They wouldn't last long without fresh water. Recognizing that the porous limestone could help them, Caesar and his men dug wells to restore their water supply. Days later, the 37th Legion, comprised of Pompey's soldiers, arrived by ship. Unable to come ashore due to the winds, Caesar risked going out to meet them on the peninsula, Cape Chersonese. When the enemy learned Caesar's location, they rushed to intercept. Despite an obvious advantage for the Alexandrians, Caesar, with a Rhodian ship full of skillful sailors, emerged victorious. With help from the Allied ships, Caesar's victory enabled him to push the Egyptians back and secure the lighthouse. Gaining control of Pharos Island sent the Alexandrians into the sea and swimming back to the city. However, Caesar's fortification of the island didn't last long. The enemy regrouped and were set to storm the island. Panic-stricken, in spite of Caesar's encouragement, many of his men then fled their posts, either by ship or jumping into the sea.
Yeah, attack sketch by the same Martin guys. Yeah, there's probably artists on the team, and that's just concept art.
Caesar attempted to retreat, but Port Eunostos' harbor was overrun with enemy ships, preventing escape. Reportedly, Caesar gathered his papers and leapt overboard in an attempt to swim to an allied ship farther out. Historian Cassius Dio claimed that Caesar would have drowned if he hadn't been able to remove his purple garment. Still, he managed to swim the distance and survive. The Alexandrians recovered the cloak and used it as a trophy to commemorate the Roman debacle.
Idioti! Elavni nugi gnostis!
Unhappy with Ganymedes and wanting their king restored, the Alexandrians approached Caesar with a compromise. Caesar agreed to release Ptolemy XIII after entreating him to spare the kingdom and remain loyal to Rome. Once freed, however, the king defied the agreement and continued the war. By this time, a faithful ally of Caesar's, Mithridates, arrived in Egypt, clashing with Ptolemy's troops at Pelusium. Outnumbering the enemy, Mithridates secured the region between Pelusium and Alexandria. Ptolemy, warned of Caesar's ally marching on Alexandria, sent his troops to prevent passage over the river. Mithridates warned Caesar in time, and the two groups confronted the armies of Ptolemy in the Delta. In the Battle of the Nile, the Romans gained the upper hand, sending the Egyptians fleeing. In the tumult and panic, King Ptolemy XIII drowned in the Nile.
Drown. Whoa, hello. Caesar defeats Ptolemy's forces. Deschambault. Hippos. Hungry, hungry hippos.
After the siege ended, Cleopatra VII married her younger brother, Ptolemy XIV, enabling her to reign over Egypt until 30 BCE. Under her rule, Alexandria settled into its position within the Roman Empire, and eventually surpassed Athens as one of the most important cities in the Roman Empire. Julius Caesar remained in Egypt for a short time, He and Cleopatra would later have a son named Caesarion.
That's a hell of a climb to get up to the top, too. To fight your way up there. Where was the other one? That one was a pyramid one, right? 13 minutes. Yeah, so we'll do these two. These two for the step pyramid. Maybe we'll do a few of the pyramids next, because we haven't done a whole lot of those. Ramses. Minutes, 20 stations. Learn about the layout of the first stone monument erected by mankind. The step pyramid complex of Djoser? We'll find out.
Welcome to the step pyramid complex of Djoser.
Djoser.
The step pyramid is at the center of an enclosed complex, comprised of temples, models of palaces, and artificial constructions, all built for the afterlife of Pharaoh Djoser. The funeral complex itself covers 15 hectares and is located on the highest point of the Saqqara Plateau. It's clear from the elaborate detail and scale of the complex that this was a technological marvel of its time. The only fragment of information regarding the design plans of the complex was discovered on a section of stone containing an architectural sketch of a vault.
You count me out.
The step pyramid is the first monument built of stone. Standing at 60 meters high, it was the tallest of its time. Built 4,700 years ago, it was originally intended as a mastaba, which was a flat-roofed rectangular tomb. Its famous architect, Imhotep, may have felt this was too humble for the great Pharaoh Djoser and began to add the steps. The step pyramid complex is enclosed within a 1,600-meter-long wall that is 10 meters high. This large wall was made out of white limestone and oriented along the north-south axis.
Man, just the architecture, man, from way, way, way back then.
While there are 14 doors, only its eastern door was intended to accommodate the living. The remaining false doors were built as portals for the king's ka to pass through. Along with false doorways, the walls were designed with bastions and steeples resembling a defensive wall. The positioning of these design elements suggest that they were related to the Hebsed festival. The only real entrance into the complex is at the end of a long, narrow passageway. This enclosure has a stone canopy carved to resemble wooden logs. At the end of the passage is a large opening. Meant to resemble a doorway, it has carved doors and hinges that are permanently open and immovable. The corridor is lined with 20 pairs of columns up to 6 meters high, built by stacking stone drums. The completed facade was made to resemble reed stock bundles. Traces of red paint were found on the columns, along with black paint on the support walls. This would have had the effect of blending the walls into the shadows to give the red columns the illusion of standing on their own.
Stela representing interlocking doors. Where's my prompt? Where's my prompt?
Chambers are located on either side of the columns and are thought to be chapels representing the provinces of Upper and Lower Egypt. According to some Egyptologists, the arrangement of the rooms may be symbolic of jurisdiction and judgment.
Wow. Perfume vase depicting the country unification symbol with happy Tutankhamun. Snakes.
Guarded by a line of carved
it'd have to be snakes.
This tomb is located at the southern end of the courtyard. The burial chamber is beneath it, down a 30-meter deep shaft. The low-ceilinged chamber resembles a mastaba and is relatively intact compared to the later burial chamber. The tomb is made of pink granite, though there is evidence it was once polished limestone. Too small for a body, it is possible that the tomb was intended for the king's ka, or to hold the canopic jars containing the king's organs. Later traditions in burials would have the canopic jars in the same chamber as the body. A polished limestone staircase leads west from the tomb to underground apartments. Some of these rooms were intended to accommodate the king and his family in the afterlife. Many large jars of pottery were found, including some that still had deposits of beer, milk, and oil inside them.
Beer.
The false doorways are decorated with reliefs of the king taking part in rituals. In these reliefs, he is seen carrying agricultural tools, running, and performing a ritual for the reanimation of the deceased. The architect Imhotep chose stone as a building material in order for the complex to last. Following the completion of the initial mastaba, Imhotep devised a burial of more ambitious dimensions. He set about stacking mastabas on top of each other. Evidence shows that the pyramid was enlarged twice by additional cuts into the steps, eventually reaching 62 meters in height and 121 meters by 109 meters at its base.
Statue of Imhotep. There you go, Tippy. Got cut off at the knees, unfortunately.
A staircase allowing the pharaoh to enter the divine world was represented by a tiered pyramid, oblong in shape, completely enveloping the original mastaba. The pyramid itself is a solid structure. All of the chambers and tunnels are beneath the structure.
Oh, interesting. Underneath rather than inside.
Pharaoh Djoser the Sacred was the founder of the Third Dynasty. He ruled for 19 years.
During his reign, he was known as Horus Negericat, divine of the body. He was given the name Djoser several centuries after his death, as a sign of respect, and he is regarded as one of the greatest pharaohs of Egypt. An apocrypha was drafted in his name during the Ptolemaic period, 2,500 years after his death. Djoser was associated with the sky god Horus in his human form. A plinth near the step pyramid is inscribed with his name and associated with Horus. He was the first to reside in Memphis, making it the central hub of government for the region. Djoser was known to have built many temples and monuments before the complex at Saqqara. The funerary complex was the first of its kind, and would mark Djoser's greatest architectural achievement. The funerary complex was built to resemble Djoser's palace, with the stone carved to imitate mud brick, trees, and reeds. Creating these details and softer textures in hard stone would have been a time-consuming, labor-intensive task. Much of the complex is designed to accommodate the Hebsed festival, allowing the king the ability to affirm his rule even in the afterlife. In the corner is a temple referred to as T. This temple is among the most mysterious structures in the complex. Its outer facade is plain, while inside it is decorated with intricate jed pillars and carvings.
Jed.
It's possible that this place was intended to be where the Ka of the king materialized, symbolically visiting the platform of the Hebsed courtyard from the afterlife.
BB.
The Hebsed festival enabled the pharaoh to maintain universal order and renew godly powers. Through a series of trials and religious rites, such as dance, offerings, and visiting the sanctuaries of various deities, the ruler's vital force and divine nature was confirmed. The celebration was meant to represent the ruler's jubilee and would take place every 30 years, though the deadline was not always followed. The earliest known ritual dates from the First Dynasty.
Scenes from a king's 30-year jubilee. Or an Italian restaurant. If you catch that reference, kudos to you.
Within the complex of Djoser, southeast of the pyramid, is a dedicated space for this essential ritual to be performed by the king even in the afterlife. The Hebsed courtyard is lined with false chapels and equipped with a platform featuring 2 staircases meant to represent Upper and Lower Egypt.
Located in the courtyard, the two pavilions are believed to represent the palaces of Upper and Lower Egypt. Rectangular in shape, the two replica structures face one another. Their facade is similar to the chapels of the Hebsed ceremony, with column crowns carved to look like falling leaves. Because Queen Hetep-Hernepti and Princess Inetkas's names were discovered on a stela near the pavilions, it is thought that these funerary chapels were intended for them. The funerary temple is on the north side of the complex, facing the stars where the deceased ruler was believed to travel after death. Within this temple was the pharaoh's serdab, or cellar. It is a small, enclosed space with one wall sloped to match the first step of the pyramid. The north wall has two observation holes. A statue of Djoser is seated on the throne, wearing a mantle
seated
and a
on the
tripartite
throne.
wig with a crown known as a Nemes. Representing the king's ka, this statue looks through the observation holes into the courtyard, enabling the king to observe the ceremonies and receive offerings in the afterlife.
All right. Anything nearby we can grab? We can get this one while we're here. That's what we were going to do anyway, right? We were going to do these two that were associated with the step pyramid.
My kingdom for a glass of water?
Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Learn about Djoser's step pyramid and Imhotep's influence on the evolution of the pyramidal structure. 6 minutes, 10 stations.
Welcome to Inside Djoser's Step Pyramid. The architect of the Step Pyramid, Imhotep, was a man of great importance to Pharaoh Djoser and ancient Egyptians in general. The base of a statue of Djoser, discovered in 1926, celebrates Imhotep as a carpenter, sculptor, stonemaker, and chief of the seers. Little is known of Imhotep's day-to-day life. While he is credited for writing medical texts, it is for his role of architect that he is most famously known. From the design of the pyramid to the elements within the complex itself, Imhotep set out to create something that would immortalize his king. An architectural achievement, the step pyramid was made from stone blocks instead of mud brick. It was the first time Egyptians built a monument of that height. Imhotep explicitly intended for the stone to reflect natural materials. The funerary complex of Djoser remained famous throughout the centuries and millennia, and its great architect, Imhotep, was deified by ancient Egyptians during the late period. In addition to the central subterranean palace built for Djoser, 11 wells were dug. Each went to a depth of 33 meters and connected with a horizontal gallery extending for about 20 meters. The first 5 galleries were intended for members of the royal family.
Yeah, all the compartments and whatever are all below ground. This is one of the previous one was the pyramid itself is solid.
Two passages lead underground and branch off in 3 directions to various magazine galleries. This vast underground space accommodated sections for storage and ceremonial offerings. One of the tunnels, starting on the east side of the pyramid, contained 40,000 stone vessels, many of them belonging to the king's ancestors.
North square of the pyramid, 1824.
The
I don't know why it's
chamber of
automatically
Djoser
going
is
to the
located
pictures
at the
now.
bottom of a 28-meter deep central shaft. According to Egyptologist Jean-Philippe Lauer, the chamber was originally made from polished blocks of limestone, while its ceiling was decorated in 5-pointed stars. At some point, however, the limestone blocks were replaced entirely by pink granite blocks, leaving behind only fragments of limestone blocks decorated with stars.
Yeah, see, there's some more of the carbon crystal stuff right there, too. If I were in the regular game, I'd be able to pick that up. It's for crafting stuff.
At the foot of the chamber are many tunnels going in all directions. This maze of tunnels, galleries, and chambers stretches over 5 kilometers. There are a number of dead ends and false doors. They may have been intended for the afterlife, rather than to fool thieves.
Pyramids of Saqqara vertical section looking west, and the pyramids of Giza from actual survey and at measurement. 1840s.
Unlike the Great Pyramid of Giza, or Menkaure, the Pyramid of Djoser does not have any extra openings dug out by thieves. There was no need for them. Because of the easy access into the tunnels and along the corridors, thieves had little trouble clearing out the temples once inside. It is unknown when the mummy of Djoser was stolen. All that remained was a left foot, found by French Egyptologist Jean-Philippe Lauer in 1934. This architect, who devoted his whole life to meticulously exploring the complex, believed it belonged to Djoser.
Jean-Philippe, 1939.
The Pharaoh's apartments, also known as the Blue Chambers, are decorated with blue-green tiles meant to imitate the reed matting that covered the walls and windows of his palace. The stone is carefully curved and painted to look like the rolled mats of open doorways and curtains.
Guess not.
There are 2 long rooms running side by side along a north-south axis. The south room has false doors separated by stone panels, while the north room is a corridor which allows access to side chambers. Nearby chambers originally housed the pharaoh's treasures.
Oh, yummy. Rib cages.
The door frames are made of fine limestone and carved with the king's name. As in the south tomb, reliefs are carved into the doorways. These reliefs show the king performing rituals and visiting divine sanctuaries for all eternity. Their interiors are fictive additions made by the team to add to the wonders of the
fictive.
It is clear from the elaborate detail and scale of the complex that this funerary monument was a technological marvel of its time.
Scarabs. So that means there's an entry or exit nearby. Typically. Well, it's open now, but okay. Let's see what we got. Check out the passport. All right. Any requests? The Acropolis, monuments, major exports of Cyrene, fauna and flora, the city of Memphis on the east side of the map, on the Nile. Learn about the beginnings of modern archaeology. Ooh, let's do that one. Seven stops, 7 minutes. Got about an hour left for the night. I think we'll be able to finish tomorrow, especially since, you know, we got the 2 longest ones done today. And it looked like a lot of the other ones that we were looking at earlier were like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. So there may be a lot of short ones tomorrow.
Welcome to Rediscovering Egypt. In the 19th century, the increased intensity of tourism and excavations, as well as the outflow of antiquities to other countries, threatened Egypt's archaeological heritage. Egyptians took part in this destruction by ransacking sites for artifacts to sell, quarrying stones from ancient monuments, and removing sebak, ancient mud bricks, to reuse for their own purposes.
Mummy, sarcophagus. Pulling up another one out of the ground.
A major step in conserving Egypt's heritage was taken in 1858, when the Viceroy of Egypt created the Antiquities Service. Supported by a team of foreign scholars, Auguste Mariette exerted an iron grip on the service. He carried out his work across Egypt and into Nubia, intervening on almost every major site. Aware of the necessity of keeping unearthed artifacts in Egypt, Mariette requested a museum be created for that purpose in 1858. This museum was the ancestor of the Egyptian Museum.
Arnev imenet.
Geanevet.
Gaston Maspero, Mariette's successor, expanded and reorganized the Antiquities Service and instigated laws regulating the export of artifacts. French scholars ran the service until it passed into Egyptian hands in the 1950s. As of the mid-19th century, Egyptology was fast becoming a recognized discipline within both private institutions and learned societies.
Gaston Maspero.
A French architect, archaeologist, and former researcher, Jean-Claude Golvin, now specializes in the artistic reconstruction of ancient cities and monuments. To date, he has created more than 800 drawings, which include 3 volumes focusing on the reconstitution of ancient Egypt. His work is exquisitely detailed and can be found in books and museums around the world.
800 drawings. Brings ancient cities back to life in watercolors. June 2002.
The team was thrilled to collaborate with Jean-Claude Golvin in order to recreate Egypt for the game. In the 19 exclusive watercolors he created for the team, Golvin used scientific data as the base, and then extrapolated to provide a full interpretation of various locations and monuments in ancient Egypt. Both early sketches and fully rendered images were then used by the team as references while building the world of Assassin's Creed Origins.
Crocodilopolis.
Although ancient Egypt's rich religious culture and its mortuary monuments continue to be investigated, the modern discipline of Egyptology has shifted focus. Rather than single-mindedly retrieving impressive artifacts, Egyptologists today focus instead on increasing the body of knowledge. In the past, excavations took place in the field, and while that is still the case today, much of the work on Egyptology now takes place in libraries and archives.
It's too bad we don't have the Library of Alexandria, like I was saying before. Survey of pottery ovens dated from the 1st century.
Today, archaeology in Egypt relies on an interdisciplinary approach, where traditional Egyptologists are helped by a wide spectrum of scientists from other disciplines and new, non-invasive techniques. GPS data, satellite imaging, and ground-penetrating radar allow archaeologists to gain a sense of what lies underneath the ground before excavating.
Yeah, right, exactly. Exactly. The ground penetrating radar. I think they've used that quite a bit on some of the pyramids. Trying to find hidden chambers and stuff. Okay, let's see. What do we have? What do you have? What do you have? What do you have? Well, I haven't played Unity since it came out, so is that one of the lines from the game? I assume. Yeah, it's funny. The game came out. That's the one that had all the visual problems. People laugh at Mass Effect Andromeda. That's nothing compared to what Unity had. I mean, I never had any of those problems that other people were having in Unity. Maybe I'm lucky, or was lucky. I mean, I set it aside for a while, a few months, and came back and played it later. But even the time that I did play it, I didn't have anywhere near the problems that other people did. Okay, let's see. Siwa. The major regions of Egypt. Let's do that one. It's 2 minutes. Yeah, I remember that. Definitely remember that.
If you have some time, check out Alexandria. It's one of the greatest cities in antiquity.
Welcome to the major regions of Egypt.
Get on a boat again. Bonk.
Life in ancient Egypt was concentrated along the shores of the Nile and divided into two regions. Lower Egypt was situated on the Nile Delta near the Mediterranean, and Upper Egypt was at the south reaching into Africa. Due to its proximity to the Mediterranean, temperatures in Lower Egypt were less extreme than in Upper Egypt.
Oh, what a crock.
Until 3100 BCE and the unification of Egypt, each region had its own pharaoh and crown. Lower Egypt's crown was red and marked with symbols of papyrus and bees.
Bees?
Upper Egypt's crown was white, with symbols of lotus and sedge grass.
You can actually go on the other side of the Nile. You can see it over there, but you can't really go very far. It's really just the shoreline and a little bit farther past that, and that's about it. There's a papyrus solution, or destination, I guess, on that side for one of them.
Both regions had competing major cities, most notably Memphis in Lower Egypt and Thebes in Upper Egypt. There were different religious cults in both regions, each worshipping their own major gods. Many of the temples were designed in such a way as to represent the two regions, and ceremonies often incorporated Upper and Lower Egypt in their rituals.
Here's a perfume thing again. You've seen that before. Well, we're still behind on the pyramids. It's the Pharaohs, Giza Necropolis. Yeah, see 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 7, 10. That's the 10-minute one here. The Great Pyramid of Giza Upper Chambers. Subterranean chambers. Let's do those two. $18 in 10 minutes, 7 in 4. I mean, even within what they've got here, I mean, there's probably so much more information and data that they could have put in here, but otherwise it would have been bigger than the game. They would have put all that stuff in there. Hours upon hours upon hours.
Welcome to the Great Pyramid of Giza, Upper Chambers. At the entrance of the ascending passage
And this is
are
free.
3 granite flagstones estimated to weigh up to 25 tons each. They were used to protect the Great Pyramid from thieves. Undaunted by the granite blocks, the thieves simply dug into the softer limestone around them, thus creating the robber's entrance.
The robber's entrance, yeah.
While in reality the robber's entrance is one single cavity which leads to both passages. In the game, the team created individual accesses to either passage. As such, in the game, one entrance leads to the ascending passage, while another leads to the descending passage. The ascending passageway of the Great Pyramid provides a direct path into the Grand Gallery and is accessed 30 meters from the entrance along the descending corridor. Both corridors have similar dimensions and are designed with the same 26-degree incline.
Cut of Cheops Pyramid.
The ascending corridor has smooth masonry on its walls, and the layout includes many trapezoidal stones. Both the floor and ceiling of the passageway indicate that the passage was enlarged, possibly during or after the funeral, to allow workers room to move granite blocks meant to plug the corridor. The Grand Gallery's purpose is still debated among experts. It may have been intended to align with the stars, act as a buffer to protect the king's chamber, or simply to facilitate the transport of the granite blocks used inside the pyramid. Access to the queen's chamber was at the beginning of the Grand Gallery. Though this room is referred to as the Queen's Chamber, it is believed that there was no queen buried here. Based on their knowledge of earlier pyramids, Egyptologists believe it was more likely intended as the king's serdab, a chamber meant to contain the Ka statue, which would in turn house the king's spirit.
Tutankhamun. King Tut.
Situated exactly within the pyramid's center, on the east-west axis of the pyramid, the chamber has a vaulted ceiling and measures 5.7 by 5.2 meters. In the eastern wall, there is a niche tucked away in a small corbelled archway, which may have originally held the Ka statue. Behind this niche is another smaller hole, possibly dug out by thieves in search of further treasure.
God, you can't even hardly make out what any of that stuff is. Section looking east.
In the 19th century, two shafts were found running through the north and south walls. They each run in a horizontal line for 2 meters before sloping upward, and both are closed off with limestone blocks fitted with copper handles. Whether they were intended as ventilation shafts for workers or a celestial connection for the pharaoh's spirit is unconfirmed.
I would say the former.
A recent scan of the room indicated the presence of an unknown cavity hidden behind the north face of the walls over the descending corridor. Further investigation is still ongoing to ascertain the nature of the anomaly, so as to avoid risking damage to the monument.
Come on. Come on, Aya, let's go.
Khufu's architects were possibly influenced by earlier rhomboidal pyramids when designing the gallery. It is the longest corbelled vault ever built, measuring 47 meters long and 8.6 meters high. The walls were made to taper inward, allowing for better distribution of weight. As a result, the ceiling measures just over a meter wide at its highest point. Though this construction technique is present in other pyramids, few have the same precision and stability.
Yeah, that seems to be the thing that impresses me the most about a lot of this stuff is the precision that this stuff was built with back then. Pyramids of Memphis view of the gallery of the Great Grand Pyramid taken from below and above.
While the space is visually dramatic, the gallery seemed to serve a practical function, though what exactly remains uncertain. Still, the wall design was undoubtedly meant to contribute to the stability of the structure, and its floor may have helped workers move the materials. A channel runs along the middle of the room. A movable floor originally rested in this central recess. The raised benches on either side are equipped with slots that may have been used to help position the granite blocking stones. At the end of the Grand Gallery is the entrance to the antechamber leading to the King's Chamber. Directly above, there is another narrower horizontal passage, that connects to the top of the king's chamber and allow the workers access to the weight relief rooms.
Pyramids of Memphis. View of the gallery of the Great Pyramid, same as before, taken from below and above.
The far end of the Grand Gallery leads to a small antechamber with a portcullis, preventing access to the king's chamber. The portcullis was composed of 3 separate granite slabs. They were designed to be lowered into place and seal the chamber after the burial of the king. The grooves dug out to hold the slabs in place are still clearly visible to this day. The elaborate locking system was composed of a series of grooves for the ropes and pulleys that drop the stones into place like the notches on a key.
King's Chamber and Chambers of Construction.
For the purposes of the game, the team elected to remove the portcullis slabs in order to grant the player access to the king's chamber. In reality, workers would have backed out of the room after the funeral, lowering each slab into place behind them one at a time. Each of the 3 stones were smashed by looters centuries later, and evidence of their break-in is still evident. The King's Chamber is built entirely out of red granite. The King's Chamber measures 5.8 meters in height. It has an imposing cover of 5 stacked levels above, with granite beams weighing 25 to 40 tons each. The uppermost level is surmounted by a vault of stones, arranged in chevrons to bear the enormous structural load. As in the Queen's Chamber, 2 shafts extend out from the room towards the north and south faces of the pyramid. They measure nearly 64 meters until they are blocked by copper-handled granite plugs. Some experts in the culture of the Old Kingdom believe that the shafts were thought to lead the king's soul to the stars, with the incarnation of the pharaoh as the god Ra, represented by the northern well, and the god Horus by the southern well. There is a granite sarcophagus at the west end of the room, but it is the concealed construction inscriptions left by workmen on the roof's stones which verify this as the resting place of Khufu. The sarcophagus was recorded as being empty when it was discovered, and its design indicates that there was once a lid in place. It's possible that this sarcophagus is only a cenotaph in memory of the pharaoh, but was never actually meant to receive the body.
Granite blocks forming the roof of Nelson's chamber.
Khufu's mummy was never found. It is hoped that as of yet undiscovered hidden rooms and shafts of the pyramid may provide an answer as to its location.
Oh, hey, how about we do this one? How convenient. Jean-Pierre Houdin's theories. Learn about his theories on ancient Egyptian construction techniques and the Great Pyramid.
Welcome to Jean-Pierre Houdin's theories.
Houdin. Oh, hello. Treasure! Let's loot it.
The team wanted to provide players with a sense of exploration and discovery, particularly within the Great Pyramid. As such, a decision was made that the internal design of the monument in the game would reflect Jean-Pierre Houdin's theories. While the antechambers of the King's Tomb have yet to be discovered, Houdin posits that this is merely due to a unique design, placing the pharaoh's tomb at the center of the pyramid. The entire tour you are about to take was designed along Houdin's hypotheses.
Fifth relieving chamber of Khufu. To the crunching. Finmeister 5, how you doing? Welcome. Welcome to the igloo. How's it going tonight? How you doing?
While respecting Houdin's hypothesis as to the general layout of the antechambers, the team wanted the contents to enhance the game experience. In regular royal tombs, the antechambers were filled with all the material goods needed by the pharaoh in the afterlife. To support the feelings of discovery and awe, the art team created a unique and fantastical treasure in this second antechamber.
Fantastical. There's some more of the stuff right there. That'd be something you could loot right there. Probably some of those other things as well.
Houdin theorized that the ascending corridor and the Great Gallery were used by the workers to haul hoist the heavy beams above the king's chamber. He called it the service circuit. The corridor you are in now was created by the team following Houdin's theory and is referred to as the Noble Circuit. It is through this corridor that the wooden sarcophagus containing the pharaoh's mummy would have been transported to its final resting chamber. With this structure in mind, one can easily assume that the pyramid's entrance would have been connected to the two antechambers. Modern research has revealed that a cavity might be located behind the north face chevrons of the pyramid. As such, the team chose to create this area for the player to explore. Here is where Houdin believes that the priests and nobles would have exited the pyramid after the burial ceremony.
Nice. Nice roll.
Many theories regarding the construction of the Great Pyramid rely on the usage of external ramps. However, Houdin believes an external ramp would have been too steep for the upper portion of the pyramid. This is why he posits that there were two ramps, an external ramp for about half of the height of the pyramid, which then became an internal ramp for the second half.
Katya view? I don't know what Katya is. Of Houdin's theory with the internal ramp and noble circuit.
Houdin's theory states that this internal ramp followed the sides of the pyramid in an ascending spiral pattern. A notch discovered in the edge of the Great Pyramid, known
Bob's
as Bob's
room.
Room, seems to support this theory. Located at the corners of each edge of the pyramid, these large rooms would have allowed workers to turn the stone by 90 degrees, allowing them to continue the ascent. The team chose to create rooms such as this one, bringing Houdin's hypothesis to life.
Nice.
This long corridor was the first section of the ascending internal ramp. Through it, the blocks used to build the Great Pyramid would have been carefully moved upward and then turned at each edge of the pyramid in order to continue their ascent. Though the team only created the main ramp for the game, Houdin posits that this ramp had 2 levels, allowing workers to return safely to the bottom thanks to an additional corbelled upper section. According to Houdin, the start of the inner ramp was located at the base of the southeastern face of the pyramid. This location would have been the junction point of the external and internal ramps. Below us, workers would have built the lower part of the pyramid with the external ramp before eventually switching to the internal ramp for the middle and upper sections of the pyramid. At that time in the process, they could have reused the material of the external ramp to fill the center of the pyramid, hauling the stones in through the internal ramp.
Makes sense, right? Alright, let's see what we got. We got about 20 minutes left. Oh yeah, we were going to do this one too. Let's go ahead and grab this one while we're here. This is the other direction. Remember, we came out and we went up. Now we're going to be going down.
Welcome to the Great Pyramid. From the original entrance of the Great Pyramid, there is a passage leading to the subterranean chamber. Its walls were carved out of the existing rock of the plateau and then covered in a fine, unmarked limestone. The descending passage has a steep 26-degree downward slope. Narrow and with a low ceiling, this pathway is long and challenging.
Cut of Cheops Pyramid. Detail on descending passage. Yeah, that one we went up, the one we just did. We're just doing the other half of it.
While the original passage was 145 meters long, the team reduced its length and made it both wider and higher. The main focus of the work in reproducing the location was centered upon preserving the unique claustrophobic environment of the Great Pyramid, while still allowing for a smooth game navigation.
I say just make it match. If it's supposed to be narrow, leave it narrow.
The well shaft was a 58-meter vertical passage that connected the descending corridor to the grand gallery above. An adjacent grotto may have originally been a small natural well in the bedrock that was enlarged during the tunneling. Whether the grotto was intended for another purpose is uncertain. There is much speculation over the purpose of the well shaft. One theory is that the channel was cut or enlarged to supply air to workers in the descending passage. Another is that it was meant to provide an exit route once the work was done in the heart of the pyramid. Without the well shaft, workers would have been trapped inside forever when the grand gallery was sealed. The opening at the bottom of the well shaft was most likely sealed by exiting workers to camouflage the passageway.
Jean de Thévenot, who visited the well shaft in 1662.
There is a subterranean chamber at the end of the descending corridor, 30 meters below the Giza Plateau's surface. Dug directly into the bedrock, the space is wide with a ceiling 3 meters in height. Its floors and walls are rough and uneven, indicating that it was never completed. At the south end of the room, there is another narrow corridor, similar to the others, though it abruptly ends after roughly 20 meters. The chamber also contains an 11-meter pit near the east side. It's unclear what this may have been used for. In the game, this well leads to a fictive underground complex containing key game-related mysteries.
Spoilers.
The subterranean chamber's original purpose remains a mystery. One popular theory is that it was originally meant to be Khufu's burial chamber, but the pharaoh changed his mind, preferring to be buried higher up in the pyramid, which would explain the chamber's unfinished state.
That's what I say. Spoilers, man. Spoilers. Excuse me. All right. We've got one left in Siwa. We can do this one. 7 minutes. This might be the last one we do for the night. Geography and importance of the oasis. Siwa.
Welcome to Siwa.
Chickens.
The Siwa Oasis is in the western desert of Egypt. Geographically, the Siwan Oasis is located in a depression 20 meters below sea level. Its natural springs and warm climate aided in the bountiful production of date trees. Though clearly influenced to some degree by Egyptian and African culture, the area's isolation resulted in a unique society and language. While they worshipped the same deities, Siwan temple architecture differed from traditional Egyptian temples.
Aerial view of Siwa. Governor's Palace.
Old Kingdom Egyptians referred to the oasis as cauldron, due to its unique geographical structure. Oases were crucial for nomadic tribes and caravans. Without them, there was no chance of survival in an otherwise harsh landscape. As such, oases quickly became hubs for trade, as well as areas of political control.
General view of the oasis. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Pardon me. Excuse me. Tour coming through.
Because of the dry climate, there is very little rainfall to sustain the oases. Instead, underground rivers flood the natural basins. Since many oases have a north-south orientation parallel to the Nile, some geologists suggest they were once tributaries of the mighty river. There is evidence that ancient Egyptians attempted to create some oases. The Libyan oases are the best known, as they are geographically and culturally linked to the Nile Valley and the Delta. These western oases have a distinct geology from the other regions of Egypt. The most famous and important oases are Karga, Dakhla, Farafra, Baharia, and Siwa. The Spring of the Sun is one of many thermal sources in Siwa, with the particularity that Cleopatra would have bathed in this one, giving it its name. The presence of the source beneath was attested already by Herodotus during the 5th century BCE, when the oasis was called Amuneion by the Greeks of Cyrene.
An actual photograph.
Oracles predicted the future, delivered omens that could be more or less obscure, and offered divine guidance. The Siwan Oracle was considered one of the three greatest of the ancient world, alongside the oracles of Delphi and Dodoni.
Or Delphi.
Because of the Greek colonies in Cyrenaica, the temple associated Zeus with the worship of Ammon.
Yeah, we've seen this as well before in one of the other tours.
It is no wonder that Alexander the Great made the perilous journey to Siwa in order to consult the oracle, emulating the actions of mythical heroes such as Hercules and Perseus. This action earned the approval of the oracle, who validated his claim as Pharaoh of Egypt. He was confirmed as the son of Ammon, conferring upon him the most legitimate claim to date of all Egypt's foreign invaders. The powerful and the rich would send gifts or travel great distances in order to ensure their good fortune by gaining the blessing of the Oracle of Siwa. Every successful blessing only increased the soothsayer's prestige. Runner Eubotus, a famous citizen of Cyrene, consulted the Oracle in order to know if he would win the 93rd Olympic Games race in 408 BCE. He did, enhancing the standing of the Siwan Oracle in the process.
Wow. Interesting. Cut from the back. It's a magic 8-ball.
The Temple of the Oracle of Ammon was built in the 6th century BCE by Pharaoh Amasis. In the game, its entrance is guarded by ram-headed sphinxes, the animal representing Ammon. They were inspired by similar statuary located at the British Museum. Another option would have a Greek-influenced representation of Zeus Ammon, a human-headed sphinx with horns. This representation of Zeus Ammon was very popular in Siwa.
All right, we just got a few minutes left. That'll be the last one that we do. Let's see what we've got left. See what some of the longer ones are. I don't think we'll have any problems finishing tomorrow, even though it looks like there's a lot of them left numerically. But a lot of them are very short. But I think what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and finish them all tomorrow, no matter how long it takes. Maybe we'll start early just to be safe. 6 minutes, 3 minutes, yeah, 4 minutes. Yeah, we may do that. We may start maybe 30 minutes, maybe half, or maybe an hour early tomorrow, maybe. But we'll see. Of course, if we start early, then that means we'll probably end early, knowing my luck. Of course, we did do the 3 or 4 longest ones. We did those tonight. With that 20, that 13, and 2 10s, I think. Something like that, So yeah, that's going to be it for the night, folks. Thank you very much for coming out. We're on the books from 6 to 10 tomorrow, just like tonight. We'll pick up with what's left of these, and we'll do those. We'll finish up tomorrow, regardless, because I think it's it's been very interesting. You wouldn't have been able to convince me that it would take. We've been through 4 hours of this already tonight. Time just flies doing this stuff. This is very interesting stuff to me. So yeah, we're going to call it a night for the night. We're at the end of our 4 hours. Thank you all very much for coming out. Enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your night, the beginning of your morning, depending on where you are. Let me do this so we don't hear anything in the background. I'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day.